Sometimes the light of Christ shines brightest when it bleeds through the cracks of a broken heart. Real people, real stories of hope for the hurting, and triumph over tragedy through faith in Jesus Christ. This is Out of the Grave with Rob and Dave.
Hey, welcome to another compelling edition of Out of the Grave with Rob and Dave. I'm Rob.
I'm Dave.
And today we have with us a dear brother. He's actually an outreach pastor and a concert promoter. He's brought a lot of great shows to my hometown, Springfield, Missouri. Wayne Nale. Wayne, thanks for being on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, you know, what we do, we don't really have a set of questions. We just kind of give the floor to you and we let the Spirit lead where it will. If you want to tell us about, I know that you have some, you have some life prior to coming to the Lord. So we'll just give you the floor, and Dave and I'll jump in here and there. So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, all right. Well, this thing could go off the rails real quick, I guess, if you put me in charge of it.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, we put you on the spot, Wayne.
That's right. That's right. Everybody needs a little tension to keep things going well.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I had a history before. I grew up in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, just that whole general area, and I started doing drugs when I was really young, about 10 years old. That continued till I was 26, and in that whole time, I just had I was a really jacked up kid. On my own, pretty much from about 15 on. I got involved in the music scene back in the 80s, in the early 80s, probably from like 79 on. The music scene in the Bay Area really started to take shape with a lot of the thrash bands who we all know now as, just these metal giants. But back in the day, they were, we were all in high school together, and
wow,
as you play. You go to a backyard party and you'd see
Metallica,
or you'd see Testament before they were Testament.
Oh wow!
Before Chuck Billy joined and they changed their name to Testament. And, you'd see, you could go to the Stone, which is a club in San Francisco, and for $5 you could see Death Angel and Exodus and Legacy, which was Testament, and Metallica headlining. Or you could see Metallica as a third opener.
Wow.
Yeah, I still have a lot of copies of those old flyers from back in the day, and it just blows my mind that some of these guys, we forget they all started somewhere.
Yeah.
And they were all garage bands. So I got to know them and hang around and work with a lot of these guys back in the day. It was just it was a really cool place to grow up in the music business. But with that, my addictions just kind of blew up on me, and so I'm doing all this really cool stuff, but I've got a $160 a day meth habit. For 16 years, my world was pretty much chaos. My world ran 7 days at a time. So pretty much I'd be awake for 7 days, and then I'd be asleep for 2 days, and I'd be awake for 7 days, and I just ran this cycle for years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I was not the nicest of person back in those days. I got there was a lot of illegalities going on, and I pretty much I made my money in that business, and so it was just It was a hard time, but when I was in it, I really didn't notice. You know what I mean? When you're in something, that's just kind of the way it is. And everybody was the same way, and you didn't know you were hanging out with these soon-to-be metal giants because everybody was hanging around. Yeah. It wasn't like it wasn't just. But then bands like Metallica started blowing up late '80s, I guess. I remember first time when they went on tour opening for Ozzy.
Oh yeah, that was the Master of Puppets tour.
Master of Puppets, yep. And they came back to San Francisco. The tour was coming to San Francisco, and Ozzy booted them off the tour. Coming back into there, they'd been blowing him off stage all tour long. Now you're coming back into their hometown. And you got I think Ozzy had 2 shows scheduled with them, and so he wound up taking them off. And I don't know if you ever heard of Slade.
I heard of them.
Okay, yeah, man. I mean, I guess a lot of people like him. I really wasn't. What's Come On, Feel the Noise?
Oh, right. Yeah, the originals, yeah.
Yeah, White Ride took 2 of their songs from them. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were.
Did they also do "Mama We're All Crazy Now"?
I don't know.
Or was that just Quiet Riot? Okay,
I think that was the second one they done a Slade. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the dude had big stovetop pipe hat. And corny kind of.
I remember it now. Wasn't that early '70s or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sean Browning loves them. He's into that whole glam, that really early glam stuff.
Oh yeah, and like the David Bowie and all that. Yeah,
Dolls. Yeah, New York Dolls.
Yeah, that's kind of what they were. They were like the forerunners of all that stuff. So Sean really likes them, but I just didn't get it. And it was kind of funny though, because they were playing at a place called the Cow Palace, which, if you know San Francisco, that's a big event. That's where you go see, Kiss and all these huge bands at the time, where they would go play. So Metallica came back and sold out 3 shows of their own at the Cow Palace.
Wow.
It was like, fine, throw us off. What you've really done is launched our career.
Right.
And from that point on, man, they were, they were big time bound and then my connection through all of the band was Cliff. And
wow.
He wound up dying over in Europe, and that broke my connection with them, because they were actually an LA band. Metallica was an LA band that moved up to San Francisco.
Right. Because of Cliff.
Yeah, and Cliff was a he grew up in the valley, just right on the other side of the hills, and so he was my connection to them. And then, and through that, you get to meet all these. I mean, it was like a big community. Everybody, all the bands had houses in San Francisco, so you go to a show, and you go to a club, and you get all the music, and then afterwards you'd have after parties at all these houses. That's kind of where everybody hung out. So it was just in the music part of it was a really cool place for me to go and give a lot of my musical tastes and the things, without the drugs, the camaraderie and the lifestyle that was within that underground scene. That kind of really got me going in the direction that I wanted to be musically. But the addictions got way out of hand. And so got into a thing with my sisters one day, and my middle sister was kind of like me. She did drugs. She ran with all these. She wasn't quite as into the underground scene as me, but we had a lot of the same friends.
Okay.
And then my younger sister was like the perfect. She hates when I call her that. She was the perfect child. She was she was a junior Olympic gold medal freestyle roller skater.
Wow.
In fact,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah,
it was. And she was, when we lived in California, when we lived in San Francisco, she actually flew the Junior Olympics that year were in Springfield, Missouri. So she actually came here, won her gold medal, and it was funny because me and a bunch of my metalhead friends, all long-haired, nasty, dirty-looking people, met her at the airport in San Francisco with this big, huge banner. U.S. figure skating gold medalist, blah, 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 and this banner. And we marched her all around that airport, just yelling and chanting. And
Nice.
embarrassing the heck out of her is what we were doing.
Oh, yeah.
So she'd been to Springfield, and then, I guess 10 years later, I wound up moving here. But I went from California, got in an argument with my sisters, and my youngest sister got mad, and she slapped me. And no one ever slapped me back in kids. Not without a big fight breaking out right afterwards. So anyways, my dog's going to make it in here. You hear any barking, it's my dogs. We wound up with this, she wound up, and it kind of opened my eyes to where I was. I was sitting in my parents' house. They were gone. Anytime they left for the weekend, they go to Reno a lot. I'd just come back and sack out on the couch. And so she slapped me, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, what in the world am I doing? I'm 25 years old, making all this money, but I have no money because I spend it as soon as I get it.
Nothing to show for it, right?
Nothing to show for it except for just destruction in my path. And I was, my wife's going to come and rescue me from the animals.
Hi, April.
So, she just went out. Hi, they said, hi, April. She said hello. So and then here's that one good thing in my life. That one shining thing that hasn't been tainted yet, and it just hit me across the face. I'm like, okay. So I called my grandparents and said, told them I needed to get away. Couldn't quit drugs in California. Just everyone I knew was addicted. And it was, and because I was also a bouncer for the largest female meth dealer in the Bay Area, Barbie. Anyway, I shouldn't go into too many names, but she's out of it. She's out of the game now. She got arrested. My sister was at her house when she got raided twice. But everything was free. I didn't pay for nothing. So it's hard to get clean in that kind of an atmosphere. It's like being an alcoholic and you're the one charged with filling everyone's cup with the can, sitting at the can.
Right.
You can't get away from it. So they told me I could move in. So I flew out to Florida, got back in the same old thing. Not as deep because I couldn't afford it now. Got back into the same kind of stuff though, and then my grandparents, who had taken me in, I had moved out by their house by this time. They told me they would, if I went to church with them, they'd take me to lunch. And so I'm like, okay, I'll free lunch. I'll go to church. I went and sat in the back row, and I tore all the pages. If you've ever heard my testimony, you've heard all this. I tore all the pages out of their hymnal. I carved my initials into the bench, into the
Good grief.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just sat back there and I just didn't care. My addiction was methamphetamine, and your addiction was Jesus. That's what got us through the day, and that's how I saw it. And so I didn't really care. So I did all that. They bowed their heads. I shot out the back door, waited for my grandparents to come out, and we went out to lunch. And so later that week, I started feeling guilty, not about the church part of it, because I didn't care, but about my grandparents. And come to find out later, my grandparents allowed me to stay at their house. When I moved in, they were sleeping with knives under their pillow. That's how scared they were that I was going to come home in some drug-induced state and just trash. And they were going to have to defend themselves. But they still yeah, but they.
Yes, I was going to ask if they knew that you were doing drugs and all that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. But they still let me stay there. Yeah. How much do you have to love someone to be that scared of someone yet still? Because they could have said, "Wayne, you're not staying here no more." My uncle, their son, was second in command of the St. Johns County Sheriff's Department. So if they would have said, there was no Wayne leave and me say I ain't leaving. He'd have come in and physically had me removed. So it wasn't that. It wasn't the fact that they were worried about me reacting bad. They just knew what my life would be like if there was not some kind of a godly influence.
Yeah.
Right.
So I called them up and I said, hey, you know, I disrespected you guys. You don't have to take me out to lunch, but I will go and I will sit in church with you and I will be good and I will listen, and then we'll never talk about church again. And I went, man, and I heard what the pastor was saying, and it was everything I needed. You know, all this stuff that I've been trying to fill my life with drugs and sex and you know, the whole rock and roll lifestyle was just sitting right there. And it was free, and it didn't cost me. I didn't have to. It was just really weird to hear this, and so I went forward, and I had my drugs on me. I had my meth, my cigarettes, everything in my pocket. I had some weed in my pocket. I went up and I laid them at the altar, and I walked out. I didn't know, you know, I still didn't know what in the world to do. I just knew I didn't need this stuff anymore. And so the pastor came out, and we talked some, and he kind of explained, you know, what salvation was, and you know, that freeing spirit that I felt, you know, but I didn't need anything but him anymore. And he explained all of that, and for a while I turned against the culture that I came out of. I couldn't listen to metal because it brought me back to these places. I had no idea there was even, the only thing I ever heard about Christian metal was Stryper.
Right.
And Stryper back to me in the day, Stryper was a hair band. And so
Right. They were glam, yeah.
Kill all hair bands was our motto. You know, if you went to an Exodus show, I can't figure his name out. It's going to kill me. Their singer, that's one of his things. He'd say, you know, kill the hair bands. And if you happen to be there wearing a hairband shirt, you were literally going to get the life stomped out of you in the middle of this concert. That was the attitude we had towards them.
They didn't put the Aquanet in their hair or wear the makeup or nothing. They were just long.
So
hair.
you don't go into those shows with a Poison shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
They called us dirt heads.
Dirt heads. Yep.
Evan the Puffs called them, the skinheads called us dirt heads, and there was going to be a fight. So that was the extent of my knowledge of Christian rock. And so I went the other way. 4-part gospel. It was the abject opposite of what I came out of. But I needed that kind of to clear my head and to get me. And the pastor there of the church really just embraced me and loved me. And from there I went to Bible college here in Springfield. I came to Baptist Bible College.
Oh.
And that's where I met my wife. I met her. She grew up totally opposite. Her parents were 22-year missionaries in Brazil. You know, we always joke that if we'd have seen each other before I got saved, she'd have been scared to death, and I'd have done everything I could to validate her feelings of fear. I'd have gone out of my way to validate those feelings for her. But God knew, and He put us together, and after about 3 or 4 years, some friends of mine at college were listening to metal. And it wasn't Stryper, it was bands like One Bad Pig, and this punk stuff. And I'm like, whoa, hey, we ain't supposed to listen to that, right? We're Christians, we're not supposed to listen to that stuff. And they're like, no, man, here, read the lyrics, listen to the music and read the lyrics. And so I found out there's this whole world out there that was just there waiting for me to discover.
Oh, yeah.
And so I kind of started back into. It was so amazingly freeing to listen to the music that inspires me, and not have the heaviness that always came on me I mean, because literally, as soon as music started back in the day, I was ready to fight. I was ready to what we call have a good time. You know, it was the lights go down, the music comes up, and every man for himself. You know, that's literally the way we looked at it. But this was different. This was uplifting. You know, this was. I started listening, and there's just a few guys that listened to this stuff. And from there, I met a couple guys that played guitar, and I started managing some local Christian bands, Christian rock bands, and some of them did really well. And we traveled all around, and you know, I was booking their shows for them and running sound on the road for them while we were out. And God reintroduced me to all this stuff that he had been setting me up for years. He took all this stuff that I thought was no longer going to be a part of my life, that metal culture, the music, the camaraderie, all of this, and he said, no, he said, there's another way to use that. And it's been just amazing. Ever since then, that was probably about 95, 90, about 2000 is when I started managing the bands again. And God has just taken me deeper and deeper and deeper into this. I found out, you know, there's some awesome metal festivals out there. We started going to Kingdom Come Festival every year. We would drive out to Indiana. And I met the A1M guys, the Always One Ministries people, and fell in love with them. My son started playing in a hard rock, the Christian hard rock band when he was 16. And he got to travel all over the Midwest and, you know, down into New Orleans, down to Louisiana and over to Indiana. I mean, he just got to travel a lot. And I got to go with him, and we met other bands. And it just kind of started networking. And one day, I still remember sitting on my couch talking with Dan Streety about music. And Dan's a vocalist for Bread for War, for those that don't know him. And we're like, man, you know, we had done a couple little shows around here, and it's like, yeah, it'd be amazing to do a big show here instead of having to drive 12 hours to go see a big show. It'd be awesome to do something like that here. And he just said, all right, let's do it. And I was kind of just like talking out loud. I'm like, what? He's like, we can either talk about it or we can do it. And I'm like, I got no money. He's like, I don't got no money. All right, well, let's do it. If God wants it done, God will pay for it. So that was 2017 when we were talking about that. And we had wrote a book. We had done the devotionals, the Friends and Sinners, Chains Unchained Friends and Sinners devotion books.
I have that still.
So the book came before the festival. Okay, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the book came because I always wanted to write a devotional for metalheads, but right. I was really lazy. And so I said, okay, well, I know all these people that are metalheads that are in bands and in ministry, and they work with addiction. And so why not just get them to do it? And I'll write a couple of them, and they can write a couple each, and we'll put them all together, and we'll give them away. And we were giving those away at concerts. We go to concerts here in town, and we give them away. We go to shows out, away from town, and we give them away. And I think around the second book is when we started looking at the festival. And that's when Dan said, well, let's do it. And everything we have done has always been people have supported us. They've sown into our ministry. They've sponsored. They bought sponsorships. They've paid for different things. And that's how we did the book. Everyone just donated, and we got enough money to print up 100 books, and we went and gave away 100 books. Got enough money to print 500 books, and we gave away 500 books. We've given away probably over 10,000 of those devotions. Now we have four. I think we have 4 books out now. I've got enough material to do a 5th one. I'm just so super busy with this show, with this, Chains Unchained, that I just don't have the time to put into it like I used to.
Right.
So we've we've got all this going on, and then Dan puts this up. So we start contacting some bands that we do, and I think first year we had Convictions was our Friday night headliner, and To Speak of Wolves was our Saturday night headliner. And back then, that's when To Speak of Wolves was really starting to rise. Convictions had, a lot of people knew of them, but they hadn't really
I
done
think at that time they had just released their third album, Hope for the Broken. Yeah.
Yep. And so, but we got a lot of bands to come out, and we just put on a show, and God blessed it, and it was amazing. And we got to meet, that was the first time I met the boys from Relent. They were actually a fill-in band. They weren't on any of our promotional stuff because they wound up taking the show with like a week and a half, 2 weeks before, because someone had to drop out. And so they came up and I met them, and they've been part of 3 of our shows. In fact, Miggy, we've actually on our stage we've had a wedding, we've had a heart attack.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, guitar player.
I'm really good friends with those guys.
They're awesome, man. Weapons of God is awesome, but he had a heart attack and wound up staying in Springfield as a guest at our hospital for about 4 days.
Guest, yeah.
Yeah, guest. Steve McGowan, him and Rochelle stayed here for a while he was recovering. Miggy had heat exhaustion. And I've never seen somebody, he went outside as soon as the set was done, and he laid on the ground, and it was like, you ever see like in the movies when somebody gets shot and like blood just starts pouring out from underneath him? That's like what sweat was doing to him. It was just like pouring out onto the sidewalk.
Well, it was, I remember it was like, it was summer, because I was there, and they wear hoodies on stage. Yeah, and I'm like, I remember thinking, this is summertime. Of course you're going to be hot and dripping sweat like that.
He wore a hoodie, and he also had a Theody jacket on over it. Theody, Charles from Theody was videoing them for a video. And he said, I'll give you a good deal if you wear my jacket during your show. And so he refused to take that jacket off the whole time.
Wow.
And I'm like, you're lucky you're not dead right now, because he was just, anyway. And then at year 3, we moved it to where it is now, to my church. And it's been there the last 2 years. That's where it's at again this year. This will be the 3rd year there. We've been able to add, I always hate when I say this, we've been able to add not better bands, bigger name recognition bands. Because the bands we've had since year 1, the bands we had are just amazing. They're all ministry-minded bands. We get them. Some of these bands can be charging a whole lot more than what we pay them, but because of the ministry aspect of what we do, they come in, and this year is no exception. Our price point has gone up some, but that's kind of what happens. It's funny. People want us to bring in like Red, but they only want their ticket to be $15. And I'm like,
right. That's not going to happen now.
It's
that's when you're like, you guys, this is costing us more than it's costing you.
Yeah, well, everybody's like, they're like, hey man, when are you going to have Demon Hunter headline? And I'm like, when you can afford to pay $100 a ticket,
right?
We have a 500 person cap in our building. We can only sell 500 tickets.
Are you close to being sold out for this year?
We are getting there. Our VIPs are actually almost gone.
Good thing I got mine when I did.
We keep trying to tell everyone, we're not joking. When we say we're almost done, we're almost done. But so you figure at what, $50 a ticket, the max we'll make is $25,000. Okay, but we don't keep a nickel. Everybody's like, oh well, man, you're going to make $12,000 off of this thing. Not really. We'll probably see about, if we sell it out, we'll see about $8,000 extra. That's after we've paid our bands, after we paid our merchandise, after we paid for all the, the stuff that we have to buy for the show. No one gets paid that works for us. So Dan and I don't make a single penny. Nobody that works for Chains Unchained or Next Level makes a penny. We take all that money out and we give it all away. We support Better Life and Recovery, the Springfield Community Recovery Center. We support Seed Time Food Pantries. We support. We're still looking. We had found last year. We thought we'd found a human trafficking organization that we wanted to keep in contact and keep helping. We help them, but we're looking for something a little more local. All that money goes back out. So we'll start our after change. So July 29th and 30th is the festival this year. On August 1st, we'll have $100 in our bank account. And we'll start this whole process over, trying to raise whatever it is, 12. I think we're trying to raise 12 to 14,000 this year. If we raise 12 to 14,000, that will pay for the show and then all the ticket money we get to give away. That's the best part of what we do, to me.
And one thing I love that you guys do, and I know you do this, is like almost immediately after the festival, you guys are already starting to plan for the following year. Yeah.
We try to take 4 weeks off. Rarely does that happen. Rarely, and it's funny. We'll start getting bands applying August 1st for next year, and we haven't even done anything yet. Or another thing is, well, like now we're one of the few festivals that waits to announce their lineup. We want our lineup to be solid and to be announced at the beginning, somewhere in the beginning, first week of December, because that allows us to promote through Christmas when people are buying presents and buying gifts. You can buy somebody 2 tickets to the show. So like our lineup is set by December 7th.
Wow.
We have people. I will get emails 2 or 3 times a day from bands that are going, "Hey, we saw your advertisement for Chains Unchained. How about getting us on the bill?"
Slots filled, man.
I'm like, dude, I said, you saw the flyer, right? All the bands were on there, right? Okay, I love you guys, but and it's we'll get people saying, this is the 3rd year we've applied. And I'm like, well, we get 300 bands.
I post the posters on Facebook, and I had a few people from bands hit me up, and they're like, "Dave, can you get us on this?" I'm like, "It's not my gig, dude. It's not my gig."
Well, so every year, if we get 300 bands that apply, 285 people get a no. It's just that simple. We only have room for 15 bands. Of those 15 bands, Bread for War is one of our bands because Dan is part of this. So now you got 14 bands. Well, of those 14, anywhere from 2 to 4 are going to be bigger headlining bands. So now you're down to 8 bands. Really, legitimately, there's 8 spots open for bands. And we try to bring in new bands. I mean, this year, there's probably half of the set this year I have never seen any of these guys play.
Wow.
It'll be my first time to see these guys play. But I'm excited about that because that means I get to enjoy new music.
Oh, yeah.
So awesome. We get to break a lot of good bands, too. So, like, I told I'm going to forget. I told Joseph Rojas from Seventh Day Slumber, I said, you guys owe me because, we were the first festival to bring Relent out when they were still just a hometown band. And he just laughed at me like, you're not getting anything. So we've got to break bands like Relent and Brutality from last year.
Oh, man, gosh. I'm dying to see those guys. They are amazing.
I tell everyone, I said, for me, when I sit down, I like to go up to the side of the stage on the other side of the speaker where no one can really get in my way, and I just sit on the stage and watch. And for me, watching them play with their guitar player is like watching early Dave Mustaine. He's got that long, wild blonde hair, just lightning quick. His hair's going everywhere. It like brings me back to 1982, 1983. Mm-hmm. You know, when I'd be sitting on the side of the stage watching these guys play, going, "Damn, they're good." You know, and that's how they make me feel again. So they'll be back again this year, but. So we get to, I get to do all the stuff I used to do, and I have way more fun now. I remember what.
That's just awesome how the Lord was able to take something that you're very passionate about and use it for His glory, and it just blows me away. That the Lord does stuff like that. Like it wasn't like you just sat there one day and said, "Okay, Lord, I'm on the team now. What do you want me to do?"
Yeah.
No,
and that was the thing. I mean, God had called me to be a pastor. Mm-hmm. That's why I went to Bible college. He called me to be a pastor. And within all of that, I mean, he's given me the my church, everybody says, "Oh man, you must have like the most metal church ever." I'm like, no. Really, there's only one or two of us in the church that listen to metal. But the church understands ministry.
Yeah.
And so they, God has given us these facilities, and they allow us to use it almost in any way we want. And so we can have metal shows. I can bring in band. And our people, even though it may not be their music, they show up and they support, and it's funny. I'm like, you know what? We're going to sit here and have this amazing music festival. But on Saturday night at like 11 o'clock when everybody else is headed home and all the equipment is loaded up, my church shows up and we clean and we get it all ready because 6 hours later we're having church in that building. So that's they've given us a place to call home. They come and they serve during the festival, and then a group of them come out afterwards and help us put everything back together so that we can have church in the morning. I'm just very blessed to be where I'm at, that God has us where we are.
We're all blessed to have you doing what you're doing.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. Well, do you still work with addicts?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. I thought you did. Yeah. How did that come about that you, because it's crazy how, like you say, Dave, how God uses that. We'd like to forget about a lot of that, but I know when I speak, the Lord like prompts me to say all the deep, dark secrets, and that for some reason, somehow the light of Christ shines through that darkness. I mean, it's pretty amazing, really.
The darkness can't overcome light. Darkness can't put out light. Light can only illuminate what's in the dark. And so God took me out of a really, really dark place. It was about as dark as I could get. But it's amazing. I have no fear of telling my story. And so I tell my story everywhere. And I tell it to people, to cashiers. And that's where this whole thing of reaching back into the addiction culture actually started. I was talking to a cashier at a price cutter. And Rob, you probably the one that's closed on Glenstone right now. It's now becoming a church or whatever they're using.
Glenstone is a division, yeah.
Glenstone division. I was talking with one of the ladies, and she knew my backstory, and she had a son that was heavy into IV meth use, and I'm sitting there one day, I'm going through her line, and we're talking, and she's crying, and so I said, can I pray with you? And we're sitting there praying right there in line. And he said, I need somebody that's not afraid to go into this place and get my son. I'm like, well, where's he at? She said, he is at the dope house. And I said, okay, well, where is it? Where is this place located? She gives me, she didn't have the address, but she gave me the street and what the house looked like. And so me and a couple friends went down there, and his sister stayed in the car, and we went up and knocked on the door. They came to the door, and they're like, "What do you want?" And we just said, I'm not going to give his name, we need him, and we need to talk to him. And so we walked into the house, and he was sitting there on the couch, and we picked him up, grabbed him by the arms, pulled him outside, and
he probably was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm like, but that was how my life was lived. That was, to me, that wasn't a scary situation. You know, where for somebody else who's never been inside of a dope house, it's more, they're more scared of the situation than they are what's happening to this life that's in there. And so we took him out, and ever since then, he went and got, now I'm sad to say, he's back in that life again. But I still keep in contact with the mom. When he's out, he'll call me. He knows that I will never shut a door on him. But we have boundaries. We have limits. This is, if that's your life you're choosing, I'll always be here for you. In fact, as soon as you say, "Wayne, I need help. Wayne, I want out," I'm your biggest supporter. Until then, we have some boundaries set. Don't ask me for money. Don't ask me to come give you a ride somewhere. If you're hungry, I'll bring you a sandwich. Anyway, so that's where the idea came from. And this was probably 15 years ago. That's where the idea of giving back to that community came from. The first time we went into a dope house. And I've been into many, many since. We work with Springfield Community Recovery Center, and Dave, who runs that guy is amazing, comes from the same lifestyle, and it's a community center for drug addicts and their family. So normally you have everything to do. The addict gets all the help. They have the clinics, they can go to meetings, they can do all this. But the family doesn't usually get much support while you're going through this. And there's where does an addict go on Friday night? An ex-addict, somebody trying to stay clean, where do they go on Friday night? Maybe they love karaoke, but you can't go to the bar.
Yeah.
That's where the karaoke machines are. You can't go hang out with the same friends you used to hang out with, because now you're putting your sobriety in danger. And so he opened up a legit community center where they have Friday night karaoke. Every Friday night they get all the UFC pay-per-views, and they put them on the big screen, and you can go out there, you can take your family there, hang out, watch the UFC fights. They got free pizza. They go canoeing, they go rafting 6 or 7 times during the summer.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I want to go.
They have all these big events where now you have community.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, so I love karaoke. I can't go to a bar. Let's go up to community, to SRCC, and we'll hang out there. We can bring our kids. They have games and stuff going on for the kids. They have all this stuff going on, and I can get my singing on. In fact, Dave, that guy's got an amazing voice, but he does all of this, and they also have classes there, so you can get help. Plus, you can find community, and through that community, you can find people who are trying to walk that path that you're walking.
Yeah.
And then they're just an amazing group. Seed Time Food Pantry, you don't just go there and pick up food. They go to you, and they bring you food. And while they're there, they'll play with your kids. They'll entertain your kids while some of them help clean your house. It's a full hands-on ministry. To this area, Rob knows this area is just evil with addiction. Springfield itself is bad enough, but you get into some of these surrounding communities, and it is third world country destitute. And that's how bad some of this stuff is. We always, we're blessed in this country, but there's some people here who do not understand that blessing, because abject poverty's been all they've known. Kids that 4, 5, 6-year-old kids living in burnt out mobile homes with no food and no electricity and no money. Parents half the time not there, and that's how they're raised, and we expect them to be contributing citizens.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and so Seed Time and these other groups go into these areas. You know, they've been given that gift to reach into those areas and be that light that the darkness can't overcome. And so that's kind of the story behind what we do and why we do it. You know, it's the same lifestyle. Like how can I not reach back into the people who? It's funny. I have friends now on Facebook that are from back in those days, and it's about 50-50. Half of them are in church, and half of them are you can't have a conversation with them. They're so their brains are so dopey that you just can't have a conversation. You know, and I sit here. A friend of mine, Joe, who's online, he was a manager for a band Kilroy that I did a lot of work with. You know, he's saved. He's got his family's, you know, going and blowing. He's doing all these great things, and it's amazing to see how God worked through a bunch of knuckleheads, you know, back in the day, and what He's using, how He's using the things we went through. You know, there's so many of those musicians too that people just write off, but have given their lives to Christ. And you know, Dave Mustaine still plays Megadeth, but that guy's got, you know, his heart for Jesus is amazing. If you ever get to listen to him, you know, we all know, you know, Head and Monkey from Korn. Alice Cooper is a very outspoken born-again Christian.
There's a church in Phoenix that he's affiliated with, Alice Cooper. And, you know, when you were talking about the community center, you know, where people could go and see the UFC games and get some food and things like that, they at the church they had set up, and it's a big building. I had been in there before. Unfortunately, you know, I never got to meet Alice Cooper because it was like whenever he showed up, I wasn't there, and it's like, Alice was here yesterday, and I'm like, oh man. There was one time Brian Head Welch did show up there and shared his testimony, and I'm like, man, why didn't nobody tell me? You know, but the cool thing about this place is it's for teens.
Yeah.
Teenage kids in the neighborhood and whatnot, and in the community, they can go and hang out after school. They can go in there and hang out on the weekends. There's free snacks in there for them. There's always an adult in there keeping an eye on the kids and things like that. But they had
a place to go hang out.
Yeah, they had these TVs set up, and the kids can sit there and play Xbox. They can play pool. And then if you go down this long hallway, they had all these rooms, and the kids could go in there and actually jam. They had drums and guitars and stuff like that. It was just the coolest thing. And unfortunately, my wife and I, we don't go to that church anymore because we live like an hour away now. And it's just, you know, too far to go. But before we left, they were getting ready to put in a recording studio so these kids could learn music production. And I was like, this is just so flipping cool. You know, and it's all Alice Cooper, his Solid Rock Foundation.
Yeah, sponsors it. If I all of a sudden had the money to do what I wanted, my goal one day is to have a coffee shop, a big coffee shop. Maybe you only use part of it during the day, but where kids could come in. Nothing costs more than a quarter. Kids could come in off the street, hang out, have a stage set up, bands could play. Go ahead.
I was going to say, as soon as you said that, I don't know why, but the word Hebrews came to mind. Get it?
Well, we already have a Hebrews coffee here in town.
Oh, you do? Okay, all right.
Yeah, so it would be something. And then I've always wanted to put a recording studio in my backyard, and build a little outbuilding, and record local bands for free. Give them a high quality 4 to 6 song demo that they could take out and use to shop around, and do it for free. I want to buy an RV when we retire, and me and my wife are going to take smaller bands out on tour. They booked a tour. They do all the legwork. We'll pack you up in our RV, load up your stuff in our trailer.
Roadie.
Yep. No, I'm no. I'm no longer a roadie. I am a driver. You wrote road equipment. I'm too old for that stuff. I put in my decade of decadence back in, and I'm not doing that anymore.
Oh, I hear you, man. Some of that equipment is unbelievably heavy.
Well, yeah, and when you're taking it out and putting it back every single day, and it's wear and tear. And
carrying it up and down stairs. Oh, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, some of these things are horrendous when you try to get into them with your gear. But anyway, but I would love to take them out and dry it and let them see what it's like to be on the road. Because that's, for a band, that's like your ultimate. That's your ultimate dream, is to get out on the road and share your stuff where you've never been.
Oh yeah, new place every night, new crowd. Yeah.
And that's fun until it's not. You know what I mean? It's but anyway, that's where my mind is. Until the day I die, I'll be a metalhead till the day I die.
Oh yeah, metal for life. Metal for life.
I always want to be given that.
Absolutely. So Wayne, as we wind down here, we're getting close to running out of time here. Do you have anything?
What happens when you give me control?
Oh, hey, no, it's
you warned us about that.
Yeah, I just talk. You were warned.
No, you'd be surprised. We've had guests on the show where we have to, like, in a way, Rob and I, we've kind of learned to get these people to talk. Because you get some of them, they don't know what to say or anything like that. But
no, I'm not that. You don't have that problem with me.
Before we wind down here, is there any, just words of wisdom from Wayne Nale that you'd like to share with everybody? Parting words, we call it. Yeah.
I'm real big on words. There's words that mean things to me. Family. I'm huge on family. And by that, I mean my family here, my church family, my bigger family, the universal church, and my metalhead family. We need to look out for each other. We need to be there for each other. We have people struggling in our communities, in our online spheres that we reach out into. We need to be there for people. And another big word is purpose. I don't believe any of us are accidents. I don't believe anything that has happened in our past is an accident. I was molested when I was 10 years old. That was not an accident. That was done on purpose. But what I do with it gives it purpose. Was it something no one should go through? But I can speak to kids. There's kids out there that they think that's what normal is.
Yeah.
So I guess my thing that I would say is, what is your purpose? There's no such thing as a Christian that without purpose.
Right.
We all have a purpose, and it's not God's job to tell you your purpose. I used to get, I don't know what to do with my life. But what do you love to do? What is God giving you a passion for? Okay, do that until He moves you somewhere new. It's really, really simple. Purpose. When we live out our purpose, you will find your voice. My voice happens to be in this underground culture. My pastor, his voice, he's big time gay. It is so funny. He's big time into gaithers and all of this. And his voice is there, but together, we have three totally different pastors, and yet we mesh together perfectly, and we're able to accomplish the purpose that the Crossing Church has here in Springfield. You guys' purpose is getting these messages out there, letting people hear. You know what? Fall in love with that. Do it to the best of your ability until God moves you.
Mm-hmm.
if you're at home and you don't know what to do, find a place and just walk out your door and serve someone.
Yeah.
You'll go to the food kitchen and just say, hey, can I spoon food onto people's plates? Whatever it may be. If each person in the church gets a hold of their purpose, the church will have no needs. We will have no wants other than what Christ, we'll be able to accomplish everything He's put us here on this earth for.
Amen.
That's I don't want to get to heaven and find out I missed something. Just afraid to step out of my door.
Yeah.
Good,
Awesome.
Good word.
Good word. Absolutely. Wayne, Rob and I greatly appreciate you being on the show today, brother. It's been a blessing and an honor.
It's been a pleasure for me. I love to talk, so you guys get me on anytime you want.
Right on, man. All right, guys, be sure to tune in to Out of the Grave with Rob and Dave every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central on gospelrockinradio.com. And if you're not able to tune in, hey, no problem. Rob has got you taken care of. You want to tell him how, Rob?
Once the show airs, we want to give full respect to Tony Marks and Gospel Rockin' Radio. We upload the audio podcast to Anchor, and Anchor has a deal with Spotify, so you can find it on either one of those. And we also upload the video itself to YouTube. So on YouTube, you can find Out of the Grave with Rob and Dave. On Anchor, it's anchor.fm/Out of the Grave.
Yep. And like Rob said, we're on Spotify, so make sure that you subscribe to us there and add us to your playlist. And our YouTube channel, Out of the Grave with Rob and Dave, make sure you subscribe to that. And hit the like button on those videos, and make sure you hit that notification bell so that you get notified whenever Rob uploads brand new episodes. All right. And I always like to end everything I do, even when I do my own radio show, with I firm believer in this, and I tell everybody, be blessed and be a blessing to others. Until next time.
Man.